everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Wealth Equation podcast. Now, today we have a guest, definitely a guest called Rebecca. Definitely you're a guest, Rebecca. We've got Rebecca Middleton, who's lovingly known as Bex Middleton. Now, Bex is the founder of a fascinating business called Boho Betty. Some of you watching, I would hope are already clients of Boho Betty. Let's see. So quick synopsis here. We're talking to a medical doctor this morning, a person that has played a huge role in the communities that she's supported in the past. And she continues to do so, but not so much as a doctor these days, but as a business person. Interesting transition. We're going to learn about that. So 18 years ago in Hong Kong, I can see here that Bex decides to establish a business. She has a business partner. They found in 2012. That's chapter one. Chapter two is that then Bex replaces, or should I say, takes over the entire business. And here we are today, looking at Boho Betty from 2020 onwards as a second iteration. So, Bex, I'm fascinated by what you're doing, and everybody watching and listening will be as well. Tell us all about it, please.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks for the opportunity. As you said, I started in 2012. I was what is known as a traveling spouse. I was a doctor, had my degree. I was, loving my work in the UK. I then went over abroad. I couldn't really progress my training. Had I done, maybe I'd still be in the field, but I became very entrepreneurial. And then when we went overseas, I found that there was a niche. There was a niche in my market. It was big shopping centres, very expensive items, and I wasn't able to find any affordable jewelry or anything that I liked. So I got my creative juices flowing, and I started on the side of doing some GP work, designing and making jewelry. And I would bring it back on holidays and show people, and they loved it. And then I did more and more, and that's how it really morphed to the point where I had a sustainable business, and I was enjoying doing that much more than I was doing any medical work.
Interesting. So you designing and producing. Tell us about that. How did you actually convert your creative, what shall we say, sort of direction or theme or idea into reality?
Well, I'd always been very ambi-brain. I'd always been quite creative, and I loved, who doesn't love an Excel spreadsheet? But as well as being very mathematical oriented, I also had a real design side that I wanted to display and show. So I ended up, first of all, just going to factories. We had literally not a bean of money. We were there on local terms, and so I got very used to finding factories in the area, and it was just a great opportunity for procurement and a great opportunity to understand how that world worked. And obviously for me, it wasn't because things are necessarily made cheaper or faster. It's because that was my home. I lived and I had that as an opportunity. So I really learned about manufacturing. I then just played around, and I just went with my instinct. My gut was always very, very good. And once I could see that there was a market, it all came down to the formulaic part of getting a sales piece. But
very interesting.
And I just have forged because in Asia, it's all about relationships. And that's very important. It's all about who you know, what you know. It's all about the guanxi. So I built a very solid foundation. And I'm able to have kept that foundation going, and also I'm able to do site visits. I was very important about fair trade, women supporting women. I was a young mother myself of 4 children, feeling vulnerable in a place with a language I didn't speak, and we just sort of had a common bond, I suppose, that helped the business run smoothly.
As you're speaking to me about the backstory there, there's a book in my head. I don't know if you've ever read it. Have you read Shoe Dog by the story of Nike, Phil Knight's story?
No, I haven't actually. I haven't.
You got to read it, because I mean it's different to your origin, sort of, shall we say, genesis moment. But it's fascinating. Excuse me. It's fascinating that that he had to also build relationships actually in Japan, in order to have the early Nike, which were not called Nike shoes at that stage, but the early concept in his mind produced, and so on. It was very interesting, actually, very similar. There's something else kicking through also as you're talking to me. I listened to a podcast quite recently on the Joe Rogan show, with a guy called Robert Rodriguez. I don't know if you know him. Massive film producer and creative powerhouse, to be honest. And he's all about creativity and accessing creativity. And forgive me for just waxing lyrical here. I hope this is relevant to you, Bex, but also to everybody watching. The way he described it, and I'd like your opinion on this, is that when a creative or any person accesses the, if you like, the energy, the universal level, and becomes a conduit for it, they stop working, in a sense. They just facilitate. Excuse me. They flow, and special things happen. And when I'm talking to you, I'm thinking, wow, we're right on.
I'm a huge believer of energy. I do Reiki every single week without fail. I am a workaholic, absolutely. I will work into the hours. I'm a night owl. I think that's my training as a doctor, and that's when I really get stuff done. But I'm 100%, it all comes down to energy. We're all made of electrons, neutrons flying around our body. And you get that feeling. It's like when you're going into a meeting, you can get I almost get a sense straight away of, you can read the room energetically. And I really do believe that where you vibrate, you create. It's a saying that if you elevate your energy and you can bring up the room, and that's why I think with my bracelets and with my jewelry, if I can help somebody feel a little bit happier with every little bracelet, that dopamine hit, I can help raise them up. And if we can all raise up together, it's a great space. It's a great feeling. And I suppose it's about, I'm very much for my daughters as well, and my son, I'm trying to be a role model, because I think you may be trained to do something. I'm trained to be a doctor. Everyone would think, well, what are you doing? You're utterly bonkers. You should have stayed in that field. Why? My signals and everything that I'm doing have led me down a completely different path. And it seems quite funny, but I've just kind of gone with it and listened to the universe, and it served me, right? So of course it's really hard work, and I've had some moments where I wasn't sure if it was going to survive. But
Sure. Yeah. I mean, again, what a brilliant way to start the podcast. Why? Because, all the people running businesses out there, architects, designers, auto repair shops, coffee shop, whatever, doesn't matter, right? How many of those beautiful people that are trying to win don't know anymore why they're doing it? They've lost their way. They're questioning whether they should go and get a job. Their energy levels may not be where they were. And listening to a leader, a business leader like your good self, that's given herself permission to access her groove, her direction, where she's meant to be. I think that's a fabulous thing. Really cool. So tell us more about, in 2020, you're right on the cusp of COVID, bless you, and you decide that you're going to take full ownership of the business and reinvent it, perhaps. Do you mind going into that space for us?
Yeah, no, absolutely. But before really 2020, I'd say we were much more of a wholesale business than a retail business per se. And we were very much in the space of online retail, airline retail. We were on the aeroplane carts, we were doing QVC television shopping channels, we were selling to small independents. And I actually had made a decision that we both made a decision that we kind of wanted different things out of the business. And I really feel very, to be successful, I think it's really to have a clear vision and a strong brand identity. That has really helped me a lot. And that's where I kind of wanted to go. So I bought my business partner out, and I remember it very vividly because I literally was in Australia. I'd been asked to do a television a shopping channel over there, and I used to love it. I used to know nothing really about it, and I would just go with it. I always think that every experience is every opportunity is an experience, good or bad, and you should just go for it.
The answer is always yes, huh?
Yeah. The answer is always yes. Like we're having this podcast, and I was literally coming back from Australia, having done this, and borders were closing. I was like, am I going to get home? I was then having to move office because obviously I bought my business partner out. And literally all my contracts were stopping. It was literally airlines weren't taking the goods, QVC, they weren't taking the goods. The shops were all shut. And I was like, oh my goodness, what have I done? This could be the most catastrophic move I have ever made.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, have belief, work hard, it'll be good. And literally during lockdown, I put my laptop outside in the beautiful sunshine, and I just pivoted and I went straight into direct online retail. I became the face of the brand. I went into doing social media. I had no experience of social media, no experience of marketing. I just put myself out there, bared all. I supported all the nurses in the community. I gave them bracelets. I gave them everything. And you know what? It was great. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And my business now is 75% retail, direct to consumer, and I would say 25% wholesale. So it again allowed an opportunity that has come, and obviously, it's far more profitable if you're doing online retail. But I have both of them because I had both of them before. So I really learned so much. And I started working with a lot of consultants because I knew I didn't have all the answers, and just asking for help.
Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot with the people that we work with around, you can't win by planning to avoid failure, right? You cannot win by planning to avoid failure. You've got to win by planning to win, yeah? And manage whatever comes along the way, that's the only way to succeed. So fascinating. Tell us about your vision then, Bex. Not the specifics of your vision necessarily, but how far out are you as the CEO of your business? Are you going out in your mind 5 or 10 or 20 or 30? How far out are you going?
I'm very passionate about what I do. I feel that good jewelry should be accessible to all. I like to feel that I'm in a unique position because through my jewelry, I want people to feel empowered. It's mainly for women. We are looking at a men's range, but it's all about feeling good, feeling confident, empowering yourself, being accessible to affordable but good quality. It's all about good quality product.
Yeah.
And for me, in terms of strategy, I really want to just keep on growing the business. We've got quite an aggressive growth model. Numbers. I think you've got to know your numbers, and you've got to know who your audience is, and always keep an eye on that. And so I'm always very, as well as being creative, I'm always very analytical. But it's also grow a great team around you. So my vision for the sort of next 2 to 5 years is to grow the team, make sure the culture's right, because if your culture, your team are not right, it will drag you down, and also you want everybody to feel empowered in the workspace, and to give your team the tools with which to grow within themselves as well, and to feel that they can get on with the job. And so far so good. We are small but mighty. And we're growing our numbers every day, and also just giving back is very important to me. So as long as I can we have an active kindness project, that I keep doing that, and I think just keep on.
if you don't mind, can we ring fence the philanthropic aspect? We'll come to that later on. That's
Yeah.
really, it's important. I want to come back to that. So let's touch back on well, there's many subjects there. I mean, right now we're talking about culture, we're talking about leadership, we're talking about management, we're talking about team, we're talking about marketing, all of the critical aspects, or some of the critical aspects of owning and running a successful business. There's too much there to encompass in one discussion, really. So let's isolate one. I still didn't hear how far out you're thinking in terms of your destination for the business.
At the moment, I'm on a 5-year plan. So okay. we're on a 5-year model, and then we see where we go from there. I have I work with another company on an analytical basis. So we look at growth year on year. We look at new customer acquisition. We look at customer retention, because your business can only grow as long as you're getting new customers through the door, and as long as you're looking after and servicing the needs of your existing customers.
Wow. So the two aspects of marketing, the acquisition and lifetime value, right? They're the two.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. 100%. And then keeping an eye on those numbers to make sure, you know, once you've looked at margin, you know, on our, you know, the way of the world at the moment, I really believe the only way for growth and sales is through social media channels as well. You know, lots of people are on their phone, whether that be LinkedIn, whether that be TikTok, whether that be Instagram, whatever it may be. People are held to their phone, aren't they? They're held to a device of some sort. And
I'm, you know, hands up. I mean, it's a trend that we're all rowing that boat, aren't we? 100%. Yeah. Yeah.
So within that, then you obviously, because it's a competitive space, you've got to look at your ad strategy. You've got to look at your marketing spend and all of that. So year on year, we're very tight on that. We look at, you know, our customer per acquisition. We're looking at that on a daily basis. You know, I look on a
you must be in such a refined retail operation. I think the theme that I hear, you know, in the podcasting that we're doing, it's interesting actually to perhaps be a little bit more specific around what I'm going to say now. The people that have evolved. Well, here's a question to you: does the business work without you, Bex? If you were not there, would it still function?
It would, to a point. At the moment, it's very much about me. At the moment, I'm integral to it. But as part of our plan, I try and change a little bit. I'm very present. I'm very present on social media as the face. But equally, you've got to plan for that. If you're ever thinking of an exit strategy, it can't be all about me. Otherwise, I've locked myself in. So
it's super cliched, isn't it? You know, the people that say things like, you know, could your business survive 3 months without you? Or would you come back to a car park full of weeds, or would it be full of roses? You know, fair questions. Okay, let's not go down that path. But the reason behind asking the question was to understand if Bex, as the leader of this organization, is considering the fact that the business will be stronger, better, more successful, able to help more people when it does not rely on her. Ultimately.
Correct. So at the moment, I've got I work with a team. I try and distance myself a little bit you know, I have a point of level underneath me. So for exactly that reason, that it can operate without me. And also I appreciate, to be a manager of people requires a certain skill set that not all entrepreneurs and creatives have, because we fly from the hip. You're getting ideas all of the time, and sometimes conveying that can be very confusing. So you need to have people that work with you who are extremely organized.
Well, I mean, now you're reminding me of Branson's books, because that's pretty much his story, right? You know, put great people in and let him leverage his brain and his talent. The other one is Musk, who's popular at the moment, or either, you know, in various different ways, but he's out there. and of course, his model is very similar, and that is, you have to be a manager in my business. If you're popular, I'm probably not going to be that impressed. Your job is to manage and not be popular. A very interesting sort of twist on things. So the reason for asking the question initially was to understand and to embellish a point for everybody, and that is that the people that are reaching the levels that you're at and that you're transitioning to are always accessing, because you've said it a couple times now, and it's a key point for people watching, accessing external help.
Yes.
Because you cannot, let's perhaps a sweeping statement. Some people can, but very few. Most business people will require either some type of consultation, external education, coaching, mentoring, non-executive directorship, whatever. And it's a critical point that, in my opinion, my experience in business over 35 years, is holding a lot of people back.
100%. I've been there, done there, got the t-shirt. So when you try, I think sometimes as well, when you're early in a business, you become a little bit controlling of the business because it's your baby and you think that no one can do it better than you can. And there's maybe a little element to that, but you'll never grow. You'll never grow or expand because you need to also be the creative genius behind what you do, or you have the vision of where it's going. And you need people to help you implement that in terms of, because there's so many elements to a business, and you've got to be the one that people can check in with, yes, no, have the final say potentially, or hand that over to a very good CEO or talk with your CFO. But you need to get in some level of help. And definitely at the beginning when I went, when I took on the business, I went straight in and I was using a platform and having some consultancy. I used a company called Sweet Analytics, and it just helped me really knuckle down to the number side of it to make sure that I wasn't, getting my figures wrong.
And working a little bit like this,
exactly that, and also, doing a lot of self-growth, and I deal with a business mentor. So I think it's fantastic. It's very, very important to let go. And the more you let go and the more you can hand over and get in outside resources, you suddenly see great things happen.
So in the spirit of this podcast theme, which is the wealth equation, so let's just remind everybody what the wealth equation means. This is money, wealth of financial wealth, multiplied by wealth of time, multiplied by wealth of health. And the spirit of the podcast is to talk to interesting people like your good self, Bex, about how you find, where are you on the balance of the three? Often we talk to business leaders that are generating financial wealth, but are super time poor. Very occasionally we meet people that along their journey have suffered with health because of imbalance and so forth as well. So can we just ring fence them and sort of talk a little bit about money, because that segues back into your philanthropic sort of kindness theme as well. What are your thoughts on financial wealth in business? Is it forgive me for asking such a direct question, but is it a driver for you personally, or is it a driver for your ability to therefore help people? Or I don't, tell us about that, please.
It's all of the above, actually, to be honest, Ellis. For me, I put a lot of pressure on myself because I do want to be successful. Having left a successful career as a doctor, I want my business to be financially successful. Sure. And I also, and therefore it comes back down to the numeracy level where you're looking at that. But that isn't necessarily the key driver. It's a key driver, because if you're not successful, you can't then pay your staff, and you can't do good things in the world, and you can't then give money away. So there's always got to be a realistic element to that. But you might not make money at the beginning. You've got to think it may come in 3-4 years.
That's when we're balanced, of course.
Yeah. And that can be quite stressful. That can be quite, because not everyone can tap into extra resources, or will the bank help, or is there funding that you can get? But also your local communities are pretty good at giving some advice to that, because there are grants and things like that.
Exactly.
For me, I think there's a ripple effect. Kindness is king. And for me, I get utter joy. It fills my cup. It makes me feel really great, smiling ear to ear. When I raised over £10,000 overnight, I renamed a necklace to for this wonderful girl who was dying of stage 4 breast cancer. These orders came flooding in. Oh my God! The company Boho Betty wasn't getting any money from it, profit, but the feeling, the community spirit, the sense of belonging, it was a palpable. It was just amazing. It was an amazing feeling to give that joy. And I think it just showed that, you can do things like this, and you're going to get so much more out of it. And then there was a ripple effect, because everyone was like, God, wasn't that an amazing thing to do? So they would then buy, and then they'd buy other things. And then there'll be this cross-selling, and then they'd be promoting me. So you suddenly found, by being generous of spirit, it not only made me feel great, it made other people feel great. It helped somebody's life immeasurably, and everybody got behind it. That then helped the brand as a whole. So, in that moment of doing that charitable thing that felt so instinctive for me to do, transformed my business in so many ways, and in a direction I wasn't sure where it was going to go. So again, it's just having the belief and going with it, and following your instinct. Instinct is very important as well. As well as the numbers. So I think that it is very important. And from the health as well. Yeah, I haven't always got it right. I have 4 children.
Stay with money for a minute. If you don't mind, stay with the financial wealth bit for us. So the ability to give, isn't it interesting? Because the old theory of it's the givers that gain. It's not impossible for people to be cynical around that type of activity, but it's such a shame, because the positive mindset of giving, even when you can't really afford it, is so important, not only to the people that you're helping, but also, as you say, the ripple. It's an interesting perspective that we talk a lot about the lake, the universal lake, and every thought, every utterance, every action, every decision is basically a rock that's been thrown into the lake, and those ripples go out and they also come back, right? So I think that's a really fascinating subject there. I would encourage people to consider being kind in that way. The challenge to them is to do it when you can least afford it, because that's the most powerful, I think, the most impactful moment in time. So tell us a little bit about your foundation. Sorry, I'm using the word foundation. That's perhaps not the right description, but your charity. What is it that you're doing there?
Well, there's lots of different prongs to it. I call it my act of kindness project. So it historically started when, literally organically, a girl called Nikki bought one of my necklaces, and I was a night owl on the end of the phone, and on Instagram chatting to her, and she was a small following at that time, and she would always wear this necklace, and that's why over time I named it after her, and all the proceeds from this necklace went to her, and it's now raised, I think, over £30,000, which go to one's gone to numerous charities of her choice. It went to her Just Living Fund at the beginning, and then it went to a place called Future Dreams, which is for men and women with breast cancer, and now it's gone to Black Women Rising, who are women of colour who don't have access to the same resources, and that is a collection that has stayed there and carries on. I also work with a company, again, a group of girls that I met through Nikki, a lovely foundation in Norfolk called Little Lifts, who give boxes to women undergoing chemotherapy and radiotherapy. So I've developed a bracelet for them, and I put free bracelets into their boxes. And then last but not least is the act of kindness. I open up Boho Betty every year. And on the World Act of Kindness Day, people message me, and I'm literally a facilitator. I will send a free bracelet. I will write the handwritten notes myself to anybody that they feel could have a pick-me-up by receiving something in the post that they just weren't expecting. So it's like I could write it from you, Ellis, dear Sarah, I feel you're having a hard time. Hope this makes you smile, Ellis. And I will wrap it, pack it, post it at my cost to them. I'm just a facilitator. And I've sent the messages. I on that day when I opened that up, I'm like, oh my goodness, I just can't stop. I keep going. And the team are like, no, Bex, you're going to have to stop now. We've like literally said, no, I can't possibly not send to this one. And it's people suffering from mental health, people who are suffering from depression, people who've lost husbands, wives, people who've just had surgeries, women in shelters, all sorts of things. And the messages that I've got back afterwards, like, oh my goodness, you really made my day. I was feeling so sad. And just to have thought that someone was thinking of me.
Yeah, super powerful. But wow, really distinct conversation, unique, I would say, so far in the podcast. Thank you very much, Bex, for sharing that. Can I just ask one more financial-based wealth equation question? How do you share the success of the business with the team? What, talking around the subject of how do you inspire your people? How do you attract talent? Is there anything that you'd like to share with us there?
Yeah, I'm a great believer that if you do well, everybody does well. You share that success together, and it then helps empower your team to do well. We have a check-in all the time. I'm very available to my team. So we have weekly meetings every single Tuesday without fail, wherever I am in the globe. We'll kind of check in that. We look at metrics, numbers, month on month, and obviously quarter by quarter and year end. We set ourselves, there's annual targets, but there's also monthly targets.
Measurement is key, yeah.
Measurement is key, absolutely key. So you've got to sort of set those KPIs. You've got we strive to get as close to, because obviously if you've got your target for the month, your month's sales, because you've got certain overheads, you've got salaries to pay, you've got to set those targets. What do you need to set those targets? You then have to sort of work backwards. How many new customers do I need to get in to be able to reach those targets? Okay.
This is high level stuff. Like, very few people running businesses watching this are doing that, right?
Okay. So I think just keeping an idea on those numbers, sharing it and going, guys, do you know what? Hey, you managed to send out 100 parcels today. People in the packing room who have no idea of numbers. It's like, how many? Let's ring the bell. That is fantastic. We couldn't do what we do without you packing that and getting those 100 parcels out. Brilliant. Perfect. And we'll go out for supper. We'll go out and do
that's the bit I was after. So it's measurement, it's management, it's fabulous. Know your numbers and hold your people accountable in a positive way and so forth. And then you share the rewards, right? We do dinner, we have
pizza for lunch, get a delivery,
Okay, perfect, great stuff. Let's talk about time now. So time wealth. Talk to us about how you've managed 4 children, for goodness sakes, and a life and transition and goodness knows what else. What a story! You should write a book.
I know.
How have you managed time? What's your view on time? I'm interested. I think I know the answer.
I'm a terrible timekeeper. I think most entrepreneurs are. I think the neurodiversity that comes amongst all of us, I think there's a common theme you'll find with most business owners and entrepreneurs. Using tools and getting people that help me manage my time helps considerably. So I use a platform called Notion. It's a sort of a management organizational tool. So when I'm brainstorming, which could be late at night or I'm out on the go, I literally can just pop it in my phone then and there. That helps me a lot. Trying to do schedule blocks and keep on track, that helps me much better. But I found latterly, with my time, that actually the more I've taken out and handed over the jobs to others that are very capable of doing it, the more successful, the more present I am, and the better the numbers have been. It's been quite interesting. It's been really quite interesting that
you become the ceiling, you become the blockage, actually, ironically.
Yes, right? The block. Yeah. Correct. So I've been making it very important that I get out in nature and I go for that walk. And if I haven't gone for that walk in the morning, I'll go on a lunchtime walk, and it's a walk and talk. So we'll walk and talk, and you listen to the birds, and you can still be out there. It's very important to take that time for yourself, because otherwise it can become you get involved a bit, and you, as you say, you become the blockage.
I think if I'd interviewed you 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, the answer would have been different. And I'm really, to be honest, I thought I might hear an answer that was perhaps not where it was. So that's perfect. That's exactly what we're trying to encourage people here to do, is to build a balance of financial wealth in their life and their businesses, evened out by a balance of time, and we'll come to balance of health next. So how many people are watching this that simply do not have the ability to do what you've just said, because their machine, their business, their performance as an organization is so reliant on them? It's not easy to change from level 2 to level 3, far from it, but it must be their mission, and it's awesome to listen to somebody that has done it. Okay, so let's talk about the health aspect of the wealth equation. I'm talking to a doctor, for goodness sakes, but how does that work for you? Are you? I mean, have you? Do you feel that you've sacrificed at times maybe your well-being for the greater?
100% at the beginning. The beginning, for sure. It was work, juggle. All hours, very, very late, very early, to the point where I say, if you are a bit like that, you do get the job done, but it's chaos because it all is on you, and no one else can get the thoughts out of your brain out, and then it becomes there's a pressure. There's a big pressure, and for sure, I would say I wasn't particularly leading the healthiest lifestyle, having very, very little sleep, eating on the go, not taking time out to have a proper lunch and sit at a table and try and enjoy the food that I'm eating. It was all a bit on the go. And then a few years ago, or about a year, I say it was pivotal, about 18 months ago, actually, I just was like, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I did a whole gut reset. I changed all, started doing, a lot more, trying to meditate a bit more, and, really getting out, as I said, with nature. And it did all start. Everything started to change. I could just feel my health was improving. All the comments that people would say were like, Bex, you're so much calmer. I really was watching what I was eating, my way of life, my lifestyle, and it did totally as well improve the business. So I think, I know your health is so important, your physical health and your mental health, both of them in equal measure, actually. Physically, if you're out about moving, if you don't use it, you lose it. You become stiff, you become it's very difficult for the mindset, and you need that nice bit of endorphins. You need to lower your cortisol levels, because if you're stressed, your cortisol levels are high. It is not good for you. It's not good for your sleep. That if you don't get enough sleep, that affects everything. Sleep is key. So you just do definitely need to have a balance.
It's a totally false horizon, isn't it, to think that success will be the outcome of dramatically pressurizing yourself to work. It's necessary in the early phases, of course. We have to make investments as business people, but there comes a point where the maturation of a business person has to be ahead of the business. Does that make sense? So the maturation of the person that owning the company, the curve has to be ahead of the business must follow them. So they have to learn to get this balance in this money, time, health equation in order for the business to follow, and the team. And this is the whole point, isn't it? Right? Just last question, because I realise that Bex has got to go and get on an aeroplane very soon. So
I'm taking my life back.
Hey, the question is this: what was the key hire? If you look back over time, what was the key hire that made the major difference to your trajectory and to your ability to be where you are today as a businesswoman?
The key hire was actually taking on a company that really gave me personal guidance. Wow. And a mentor. It was really a business mentor that made me see things in a different way and in a different life, and that there a light, and that there is life outside of work. And if you can help build a team and a support mechanism around you to support you, and it not all being about you, it makes for a better business, and also it makes you to be a better person, to be able to lead your team. And it's been phenomenal, actually.
That's incredible. I think that's the clearest description of the power of having external input that I've ever heard on the podcast. That's wonderful. I want to say congratulations to that business or that person or that team that helped you. They should be very proud of the work they've done. Brilliant stuff. Well, what an amazing insight into the world of Bex Middleton and Boho Betty. Wow. For those people that are watching, if you haven't been on Boho Betty's website, then you need to go search for it, have a look. The products are beautiful, and I know that there will be people that either yourself or people that you know that you want to buy things for. So I would just want to say thanks for coming on, Bex, because you're on a time schedule now. So we'll wrap it up there, and please come back again one day in the future and tell us more. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if there's only one take-home message, I say is just be authentic and be true to yourself, and just be unapologetically you. Just follow your dreams and go for it.
Again, we this really interesting point you've opened there around the description for me is Marmite versus marmalade.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of people think the right way to run a business is by being sweet and sticky and appealing to as many people as possible. But actually, the reality is you need to be Marmite. You need to know your target audience. You need to know your identity, and you need to be consistently delivering, as you say, perfectly. Marketing, team, management. What a brilliant way to finish the podcast. Thank you, Bex. Safe travel wherever you're heading off to. And we'll see you soon, shall we?
Yeah, thanks, Ellis. Really loved it. Been great.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks.